All righty. Well, hopefully everyone continues to trickle in as they get through. Thank you for taking the time out today to join us for this presentation. For anyone that may not have joined an ATS webinar or ATS University series before, we do a variety of application, code, and product-specific discussions, all of which are presented like this, recorded, and then hosted onto our ATS University blog area in the Learning Center on the ATS Spec tool. Brief introduction, my name is Zach Allison. I've been with ATS for about 15 years and been doing product sessions across Canada, previously in person and now a lot of virtual webinar learnings. So thanks for joining us today. And with me is Natalia Ramos, who handles the architect and interior designers, but also some engineering firms across various territories as well. So she gets the privilege of learning a lot of different codes across Canada. And today she's going to be going through the updates and some of the key aspects of the Ontario Building Code. As with many of our presentations, if you would like a deeper dive specific for your firm, feel free to reach out to us after. We do a lot of one-on-one lunch and learns for various firms. And whether it's this or any of the other products on our site, we're happy to assist in setting up training. As with a vast majority of the other webinars that are online these days, we do have everyone muted upon entry, but I will be keeping an eye out on the Q&A and chat fields. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to you, Nat, and let you dive into the barrier-free code discussion.
Thanks, Zach. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, thanks for joining us. My name is Natalia. As Zach said, I'm the MD Architectural Manager for Ontario. In the next hour, we're going to talk about the OBC and what's changed since the last review in 2020. I promise I'll do my best so that this presentation won't become boring, but I'm going to talk about code and requirements. So please bear with me and let's make it through the end of the presentation. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about codes and standards. Then we're going to jump right into the barrier-free washroom requirements on lavatories, water closets, urinals, showers, and bathtubs. And at the end, we'll have some time for a Q&A, but as Zach mentioned, he will be monitoring the chat. So please feel free to ask anytime during the presentation, okay? Before we start, I wanted to ask you, why do you think barrier-free is required? Does anyone would like to help me here? It can be on the chat. Do you think it is because people in wheelchair need the barrier-free requirements to be met? Or do you think it's only for people with permanent physical disability?
We got a couple of responses coming in. I think the best one that I've seen so far, safety and equity for all.
Perfect. Yeah. What if I told you that, yes, you're completely correct. It was primarily designed for those in wheelchair, but this concept has evolved to also provide accessibility to all members of society, including those requiring assistance permanent or temporary. Any of us here can be involved in an accident and need temporary assistance of a crane, or maybe parents with a baby in their strollers. And the more you consider all types of disabilities, the more your design will be inclusive. On this graphic table, you can clearly see that making your design accessible for use, making it easier to use, expanding the range of user you can include, easier it is for more people, and closer we get to the universal design principle, which is just the design that is usable by all people to the greatest extent possible without the need for adaptation or specialized design. So let's start codes and standards. We all know that barrier-free requirements is dictated by province and in some cases by the region itself. As you can see here, we have the main code jurisdictions, which are Alberta, the ABC 2019, our OBC 2015 with the 2020 amendments. We also have the Prince Edward Island, who is based in NBC 2015. These first three, they are highlighted in yellow because they are transitioning to new code. We also have the Manitoba and the Newfoundland and Labrador based on the NBC 2015. Also Nova Scotia and Nunavut, they are also have some supplementary amendments. And we have the rest of the building codes across Canada, the BCBC 2018, the Quebec KCC 2015, and the other ones based either on NBC 2010 or NBC 2015. So here you can see how the code adoption works. So we have this CSA B65118, which is the accessible design for the built environment, developed by the Canadian Standards Association with a broader range all over Canada. The standard B651 is already referenced in the National Building Code, as well as underpinning the Rick Hansen Foundation Accessibility Certification. The National Building Codes states general building rules of Canada, and from there we have each provincial building codes with amendments and rules specific to each region. Talking specifically about Ontario, the Ontario Human Rights Code, the OBC, and the AODA provide the minimum standards for accessibility in the built environment. From there comes the municipal standards and better practice, such as for example, here in the City of Toronto Accessibility Design Guidelines. Basically, the TADG provide guidelines and best practices that were identified after extensive research and consultation with accessibility users. And we also have to talk about the Accessible Canada Act that applies to federally owned properties or federally regulated organizations. So here the goals, as you can see, of the Accessible Act is basically realization of a barrier-free Canada, culture change, standards development, proactive compliance and enforcement measures, and monitoring and oversight all the public projects. What matters to us today is the OBC, and specifically Part 3, Section 3.8, that states about barrier-free design. So let's dive into the code requirements updates for the barrier-free washrooms. So basically, a barrier-free washrooms requires to have a toilet and a lavatory. On the toilet area, you need to have a coat hook, a rear grab bar, a side grab bar, toilet paper dispenser. And on the lavatory area, you need to have a mirror, soap dispenser, hand dryer equipment. It can be a hand dryer or a paper towel dispenser. You don't actually need to have both. And also a shelf. The wide door, the entrance door has to be 850 millimeters wide, if possible, always swinging outward. The room size. So the minimum internal dimension it cannot be less than 1700 millimeters. The clear floor space. So you have to have inside the room a clear floor space of a turning circle of 1700 millimeters. For universal washrooms, specific here in Ontario, we all know that it is required to leave a space for an auto change table. So you have to leave a space of 32 inches wide by 72 inches long. You have to provide backing wall for future installation. Some of other requirements is to the load capacity has to be at least 295 pounds of load capacity. The adjustable height from 450 to 900 maximum. And also on the side of the change table, the auto change table, you have to have a clear transfer space of 760 wide by 1500 long. So here we work with Presley Care. It's one of our manufacturers, and this is the model that we usually specify for public universal washrooms. So the nursing bench 2000, it complies with everything that is required by OBC. What I would like to call your attention to is, in case you are designing a project, a public project or a government project, which is based on the CSA, the B65118. If you, I don't know if you have come across this before, but the requirement for auto change table is a little bit different from the OBC. It needs to be at least, the load capacity has to be at least 250 kilos. So we don't have many options on the market right now. We do have a brand new product from Koala Care, the KB3000, the one that you can see here, is the only one that can support 250 kilos. When it comes to installs, you need to have a turning circle inside the stall of 1500 millimeters. In front of the stall, you also have to provide 1500 clear floor space. The doors always swing outward. It has to be equipped with a water closet, a coat hook, and a toilet paper dispenser. Multi-stall washrooms are basic health and accessibility requirement of a building and should be designed for all individuals. Typically, the multi-stall washrooms, they are gender specific in staff and public areas. However, in high-use public facilities, consideration for the use of gender-neutral multi-stall washrooms may be appropriate because they allow an individual providing assistance, so a parent or a caregiver, they can go inside the stall without feeling awkward or discriminated. So thinking about this, Bobrick has recently launched the extended privacy mounting partition, with which you can achieve, as you can see here, 84 to 96 inches doors and panels, and with only 1 inch of the floor. As you can see here in the image, the right-hand side install is the accessible one. As you can see, the doorknob and also the hinges on the outside surface. And what I also want to call your attention here is regarding the floor clearance at the bottom of the door. And why is that? Right now, we don't have nothing on OBC stating about having a minimum door clearance, but we do have ADA. ADA requires you to have on the front of the partition and at least one side partition shall provide a toe clearance of 9 inches minimum above the finished floor and 6 inches deep minimum beyond the compartment side face of the partition. Exclusive of partition support members. Compartments for children's use shall provide a toe clearance of 12 inches above the finished floor. So what we have on OBC right now regarding toe clearance is when you are designing a project of a public pool. So if, as you can see here in section 3.11.91 in dressing rooms and sanitary facilities, the bottom of interior partitions in dressing rooms and washrooms shall be between 250 and 350 millimeters above the door. This means that the only product that you can comply this requirement is the Bobrick Duraline series, the standard privacy mounting. Is the standard that you probably have already specified. Is 58 inches doors and panels and 12 inches of floor clearance. Do you have any questions here so far? I'm going to jump into lavatories.
We had a question back on the adult change table section, which was mostly due to clear space considerations. And I think one of the important things when it comes to some of the clear space considerations for change tables is any sort of nitty detail should likely be petitioned and discussed with your inspector. So anything that's kind of falling into a bit of a gray zone that trying to get an allowance, certainly would suggest petitioning the inspector and having that discussion with them. At the end of the day, they're the one that's going to make the final say. So for anything like that, where it's a bit of an outlier situation, I always suggest discussing directly with the inspector.
Yeah, I understand. It gets confusing, but as Zach said, we have only the minimum dimensions, and yeah, the best person is the building inspector for sure. Okay, so moving on to lavatories.
Actually, one other question coming in, is the door clearance 850 millimeters or 860?
850. You mean that how wide the door should be?
I believe that was back at the beginning, right? So
yeah,
we can follow up. So one thing I'll say as well, this will be available as a downloadable resources from the ATS University area. So as part of the follow-up, if you want to follow up on any of the specific dimensions, we can circle back to you on anything like that. So thank you for the question.
Thanks. So moving to lavatories. So now it gets really technical, so bear with me. The minimum for the approach you need to have is 920 millimeters wide by 1370 deep. 500 of this 1370 can be under the lavatory. And the center line of your lavatory has to be 460 millimeters distance from the side wall. So you always, most of the bases, the sinks have already a standard measure, but always paying attention that you have to have this 460 from the wall. The knee and toe space under the sink. So I'm not gonna go for over each dimension here. For the sake of our understanding, our BIM team, they have designed this gray rule so that we can easily verify if a lavatory is compliant or not. So you have here basic dimensions. The rim height has to be less than 865, and all the other dimensions here. We have this rule, as I said. You can always reach out to us. We have almost all of the American Standard sinks are already verified, so you can just reach out and we can help you to show if it is or not compliant.
One thing that I will highlight there as well, as you can go on to the next slide. With the knee and toe clearance, that's not the only aspect to consider. The faucet reach is also called out in code and also a very key requirement. So that's the one thing that's often overlooked. You can push the basin forward or back, and then it avoids, the clearance of the knee and toe issues. But ensuring that you're following the 45 max faucet reach is also very important.
Thanks, Zach, for adding some more information. So just to show you some options that we have of accessible lavatories, we have the wall-hung decorum. So as you can see here, it matches the compliance for under the sink. A drop-in countertop basin we have also is the Cadet, the universal access, the 9494. Also, you can see it complies. Lavatory controls. So the requirements it must be automatic, or it must be able to activate it with a closed fist, always with a closed fist, using not less than 5 pounds of force. No continuous force to activate the manual control, the lever, sorry. 10 seconds of meter flow at least, and the usual 0.5 GPM flow rate. What we have new from the 2020, one of the 2020 changes is that spring actuated faucets are now allowed.
So just to provide a little bit of context there, in the past, the push button metering type faucets were not allowed due to there was a comment specifically saying no spring activated faucets. And one of the reasoning behind that was a lot of those spring activated faucets in the past did require continuous force. So with the changes in some of the faucet technology and the changing to the wording in the code, you now are able to meet that with a metered type faucet, as long as it's meeting those other requirements.
Perfect. Just to show some automatic faucets examples we have. So we have basic, the automatic faucet. We have a combo of soap dispenser and the faucet, and the whole system here, the air deck, which is a faucet, soap dispenser, and also a hand dryer, all deck mounted on the counter. Some manual faucets. So here you can see 3 different types. One mix involved with single-handed. The wrist blade activation of the faucet, all can be activated with the closed fist and using less than 5 pounds of force. And the meeting faucet. When it comes to accessories, so here we have some more details. The hand drying and any other dispenser has to be installed less than 1200 off the floor. It has to be located the maximum of 610 from the edge of the lavatory. Soap dispensers, they have to be installed less than 1100 off the floor. It has to be located maximum 500 from the lavatory. Again, the soap dispenser and everything barrier-free related, activated with a closed fist and using not more than 5 pounds of force. If you're using a flat mirror, it has to be installed less than 1000 millimeters from ground to bottom edge. If your mirror is a little bit higher than that, then you should use an angled or tilt mirror. A coat hook has to be installed less than 1200 off the floor and projecting no more than 50 millimeters. And the shelf has to be less than 1100 off the floor and project not more than 100.
So this was a question that was asked earlier, inquiring about the mirror specifically, and whether or not a flat mirror is acceptable or a tilted mirror is acceptable. And if the code is kind of forcing one way or the other. And I think the important part there is really comes down to your heights. So a flat mirror is acceptable as long as it's meeting the specific height installation requirement. And if you do require to mount that higher, then you should be looking at the tilted mirror.
Exactly. Some products that would meet the OBC are hand dryer and Insta-Dry. We also have the classic series, the soap dispenser manual. It can be activated using less than 5 pounds of force. We also have our combo of paper towel dispenser and waste receptacle. Again, if you are already using hand dryer equipment, you don't actually need to have a paper towel. You can have each one of it. Paper towel dispenser, this one protrudes not more than 10 millimeters from the wall. Sorry, 100 millimeters from the wall. And our classic jumbo toilet paper dispenser, which also complies with the code. Here are two examples. So you can use a flat mirror, but also you have the option if it is higher than 1000 millimeters from the floor, then you have to use an angled mirror like the Bobrick B293. And last of the accessories required, we have the coat hook, also not protruding more than 50 millimeters. And the only one in the market that we have now, which is compliant to the code, is the Genko, the MS18 and the MS24 is the only one that protrudes only 100 millimeters from the wall. All of other Bobrick shelves, they protrude more than 110 millimeters from the wall. So Genko would be the only option right now complying to the OBC.
That's a good time to bring up a point that was mentioned in chat earlier. Quite often people say there's an ADA acceptable product. And the point in chat that was brought up was just because it's ADA does not mean that it complies with our OBC or a BC building code or ABC. So just be very careful as you're going through, because there are a lot of products that are acceptable for barrier-free in the States that may not be acceptable here. So like we're saying, there's some of these specific measurements that are important to keep in mind as you're doing your product review.
Yeah, one example is the shelf. Bobrick shelf is ADA compliant in the US, but it doesn't work here for the OBC requirements. So here we are always specifying the Genko shelf, the only that protrudes only 100. Another topic, very sensitive when it comes to barrier-free, are the grab bars. So the grab bars required, it is required to have on the side wall and the wall behind the water closet. If you cannot install a sidewall on the sidewall, you have the option to install a fold down option on each side of the water closet. Another change of the code, it was the diameter, which is acceptable. Before it was only acceptable 35 to 40 millimeters, and now it is acceptable 30 to 40 millimeters diameter. So we have some other grab bars options that now complies to the code. Also, the clearance from the wall is now 38 to 50 millimeters. The grab bars, they have to resist 293 pounds of load horizontally and vertically. And you also have to provide backing walls like you must do for the auto change table, also for the grab bars. And also it has to have a pin or gripping surface. The rear grab bar, it has to be minimum 600 long. It has to be installed horizontally. It must be centered on the toilet bowl. From the floor has to be 840 to 920 from the floor. And if you're using a tank type water closet, it has to be installed 150 above the tank. This is a discussion that I came across once with an architect. It is because if you install the grab bar above the tank, it won't meet the total distance from the floor. If you read the code is not really clear about it. It just say that if you're using a tank type, then it must be this high from the tank type. It doesn't really link to the total height that you have to have from the floor. So this is just, as Zach said, it is a matter of understanding, and always best to talk with the building inspector and see what is their understanding on this matter. The side grab bar, it needs to be L-shaped, minimum 750 vertical and horizontal components. So our classic 30 by 30 inches. Same distance of the floor as the rear grab bar, so 840 to 920. And has to be 150 from the toilet edge to the start of the vertical component, as you can see here in the image. Here's an example of the fold down grab bars here in Ontario. So it can be used in addition to the normal grab bars. So you can add the fold down grab bar if your client wants. And it can be used as in lieu of side grab bar when clear transfer space on both sides of water closet is possible. So it has to be 900 wide by 1500 long. So these are the most specified grab bars that we have from Bobrick. So we have the B6806, the B6898, the L-shaped grab bar, and we also have the swing down, the B4998. We also have another diameter. This one is a half inches, and we also have the 5806, which is a quarter of diameter, and it's now acceptable by the code. Any questions on grab bars before I move on to water closets?
Nothing's come up on the grab bars. I think one thing I would just highlight again, like you mentioned, the gray area that sometimes comes up. Make sure that anything like that where you're taking an interpretation, a manufacturer or a rep or ATS or whoever could tell you one thing, but realistically, at the end of the day, it comes down to the discussion with the inspector. Anyone's interpretation is only as good as how far the inspector suggests it. So we try to just provide the information and provide the options and allow that discussion to be held with the inspector with as much base of knowledge as possible. We do our best when it comes to things like the grab bar with the flush valve conflicts. Which if you want more detail on that, certainly reach out to me. We could have an hour-long discussion just on potential flush valve options that do or do not comply with the grab bar heights. So if you have any questions along those lines, let me know. And we'll circle back to that if it comes up again.
So moving on to water closets. What we have on code on water closets, So the water closet location, the transfer space you have to provide on the side of the water closet, it's 900 wide by 1500 long. The distance from the side wall has to be minimum 460 to 480. General requirements, so you have to provide a back support. So it can either be the tank of the toilet tank, a seat with the lid, or maybe if you're using automatic, a sensor flush valve, then you can provide a back support, backrest. The flush controls accessible need to be from the transfer side. So we always generally with tank type toilets, we have to pay attention on which side it is the flush control. It always needs to be on the transfer side. And also needs to have the toilet paper dispenser. So needs to be located below grab bar between 600 and 800 off the floor, and less than 300 from the toilet edge.
So we did actually have a question come in on the grab bars. And it's one of those product categories that's not exceptionally well defined in the building code currently. It just calls for back support, and it's relatively undefined. So the back support, those backrests have become popular in the market. We worked with manufacturers to help champion them because it is a uniquely, or at least originated as an OBC specific issue due to the height of that, the grab bar. And conflicts that were coming into play with extended flush tubes on flush valve. So because of that, the question came up, is there options on different widths for backrests? And it's pretty well standardized at this point where there's really only the one width available, but you do see different depths, or at least you should, because the spud, the inlet connection to a top mount or a top spud toilet for a floor mounted model versus a wall mounted model is a different depth from the wall. So for instance, with the manufacturer that's on ATS spec, we have two different models. We have one that is, the standard base model, and one that has a -WM in the model number, so that the -WM stands for pairing with a wall mounted toilet. And that's going to have a different depth, like I mentioned, from the finished wall to the backrest itself and to the curve of the grab bar supporting it, to make sure that it goes around and fits in snugly with the flush valve. If you push too far out, then you end up with a conflict with the toilet seat and it can't go a full 90. So that's the purpose behind those two different models. If there is more definition in the code in the future, then we'll certainly bring that up.
Thanks, Anna. You are the best person to answer on backrests. So here are some examples of what you can use for back support. So the tank of the tank toilet, as you can see here in the cadet, it is to be right height, line tank and voted tank cover. Another two options, so you can use the seat with the lid and the backrest model, as Zach just mentioned, the one from Frankie. This one, it doesn't have the WM code of the part of the code number. So this is not for the wall mounted toilet, just a regular floor mounted toilet. Speaking of height, this is a quick comparison between all the codes requirements right now, but focus here on the OBC. What is required is the seat has to be at least 430 to 485 from the floor. Similar to what we have in the CBC code. Another good height for you to know is the handle, the flush valve handle. If manual, it needs to be from at least 500 to 900 millimeters from the floor. Two tank toilet types here. So we have the Cadet Pro ride height again. And we also have 4 more residential applications. We have the Warmax. Two other types of water closets that you can specify. So we have the floor mounted, the Madeira ride height, and also the F-wall. For flush valves, we have the manual type, so Royal 111, and also the sensor option from Slow. So as you can see, with the first option, with the manual, you can easily use a toilet seat with a lead. On the other hand, with the sensor model, it wouldn't work the sensor. So in this case, you probably would have to go with the backrest. Any other questions on the water closets before we jump into the urinals?
Oh, so another question did just come in. I believe it'd be on the height. So is it the height from the seat cover or the toilet seat itself? And I believe the measurement would be from the toilet seat itself with the lid open.
Yeah.
So we'll update the image there. I think our BIM team that made this up has the closed lid. But you're correct. It would be to the top of the seat itself. Especially because more commonly these days we are seeing just a standard open front elongated with the backrest. So to unify the measurements, it would always be to the top of the seat.
Yeah, that's correct. So urinals, ring height has to be less than 430 above the finished floor. The flush valve, so if it is a manual activation, 900 to 1100 height of the floor, always activated using a closed fist and not more than 5 pounds of force. Speaking about approach, so you can't have any steps in front of the urinal, and you have to have a clear space of 800 wide, and it is recommended that the depth would be 1350 millimeters in front of the urinal. Urinal grab bars, so it is required to have 2 grab bars mounted vertically on each side of the urinal. Grab bars need to be 600 millimeters long. 1,000 height to center line of grab bar, and 380 maximum distance from center line of the urinal to each of the grab bars. 2 options that comply with the code are the American Standard of Washbrook and also the Decorum. They both comply. And you can use either with the manual flush valve or the sensor flush valve. Showers. So in front of the shower, you have to have a clear space of minimum 1500 wide by 900 dip. And inside, you have to have a clear inner space of minimum 1500 wide by 900 dip. The shower floor. So your shower floor has to have a slip resistant floor surface, have a threshold level with the adjacent finished floor, and a beveled threshold not more than 13 millimeters higher than the adjacent finished floor.
So that's one of those fine details that I always recommend taking a double check on. primarily because it's one of the measurement that's slightly different than ADA. So be careful when you're reviewing shower floors to make sure that if there is a bevel threshold, it meets the 13 millimeter measurement, because there are a number of products out there that will comply with the US measurement, but not the OBC or Canadian option. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, here we have two options from Williams that complies with the code. So WDA 3460 and the 3760. They both also have the minimum dimensions required for the shower floor. The shower trim. So it has to be pressure balancing or thermostatic on back wall. It has to be installed less than 1200 above the floor, within reach of the seat, and also be activated with a closed fist in using less than 5 pounds of force. It also had to have a hand shower. For the accessories, it has to have a recessed soap holder and a foldable shower seat. So the shower seat has to be minimum 450 wide by 400 deep. Same side as vertical grab bar within 500 of control, and has to resist 293 pounds of load capacity, same as the auto change table. Hand showers. So it has to be usable at 1220, 130 off the floor. This is best accomplished using a 900 long slide bar. And also, one of the new changes of the code is that the holes has to be minimum 1800. So there are not a lot of the manufacturers that can provide the holes that long, but we have from Chicago Faucets, we have a hose, the 2469 NF, which is 1800 long. For the accessories, so as I was saying, the foldable shower seat, we have this one from Bobrick, the option, so the B5181. And also the recessed soap holder, we have the B4380. Another sensitive topic is the grab bars on showers. So we have now to provide an L-shaped grab bar on back wall of the shower. The horizontal component has to be 1000 millimeters. And has to be installed 750 to 870 off the floor. The vertical component has to be 750 long and same side as the sidewall grab bar, and 400 to 500 from the sidewall. The vertical straight sidewall grab bars that we have, there is required, so it has to be minimum of 1000 millimeters. Has to be installed from 50 millimeters to 80 from the sidewall, and 600 to 650 off the floor to the lower end of the grab bar. We have a lot of questions regarding the shower L-shaped grab bar. We don't have from Bobrick a standard model, but you can specify the B6806. And then you have to specify that if it is right-handed or if it is left-handed, whichever is the model that you need, we can provide as a special product. But the part number would be the 6806. Any questions here? Sorry, I forgot to ask. And I know grab bars, we get a lot of requests from that.
Yeah, there's a I think one of the questions that's really been coming up more so is on something that we might have missed on a slide earlier. There was a question that's come up a couple of times regarding the components below a lavatory. And one thing I will say is that prevention against knee contusions is a requirement for the code for the lavatory area. So that can be handled one of two ways, which similar to the backrest, it's not specifically mentioned on the details. It just says you have to prevent against contusion and scalding. That can be done with either a shroud that will cover the traps and supplies, or with an insulating products that we have from McGuire and other similar manufacturers. So it's like a rubberized coating that goes around the traps. So that is a way to handle your contusions and scalding prevention.
So moving to the last fixture we're going to talk today, bathtubs. So size and space. Bathtubs need to be minimum 1500 long, a clear floor space of 1500, a turning circuit of 1500. The controls, same as the showers, needs to be thermostatic or pressure balanced. They need to be activated using a closed fist and less than 5 pounds of force. They have to be center line, installed in the center line of the bathtub, and maximum height of 450 above the ring. Here's an example of a barrier-free bathtub that we have from American Standard, the Prince style recessed bath. It can be used with the same Chicago faucets controls, with the 1800 hose long. And the grab bars of bathtubs is a little bit different. So you need to specify 3 grab bars, minimum 1200 millimeters long of the grab bars, 2 vertical at each end, and 1 horizontal centered. The 1 horizontal has to be installed along the full length of the bathtub, and lower end 80 millimeters to 280 above the bathtub rim. So very similar to the showers. I guess that was all. Do you have any other questions? I can come back to any of the slides or any other.
No, I think that's it for now. So we've got a couple final minutes here. If you want to just give me the screen sharing ability.
Sure.
So thank you very much. And if any other questions do come in, feel free to pop them in chat. We'll keep an eye on it. If you want to stop sharing for a second.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect.
I know there are a lot of details, so.
Yeah, I will say that as well. So there's a lot that had to be covered there. And to be honest, there's stuff that we missed because there's just so many details to it. It would take a presentation into a 1-hour presentation into probably a 2 or 3 hour presentation if we want to go through all the nitty gritty. So if there are any additional follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Again, my name is Zach. I'm the ATS National Sales Manager, and Natalia, who manages our Ontario and Western Canada architectural and interior design discussions. Just want to show very quickly the ATS spec tool. So if this is your first time joining us, ATS, really what we're doing is putting out tools that assist designers, engineers, and contractors in making product selections. One of the key aspects to that is, one, we're paid for by the manufacturers, so it's all a free service to the design engineers. So we are proprietary to certain manufacturers, as I'm sure you saw throughout the presentation, and as you've probably seen if you're familiar with the spec tool. But what I've got here is a presentation or a project that I put together earlier today, just had a feeling that we might be running a little bit long at the end and might not have full time. So you can see I've already got a water closet with the barrier-free selection for my backrest and my seat, my urinal, as we discussed, and a lav. And if I wanted to add more product here, all I have to do is hit the plus button. Now, this is tied to your individual account. So you can see I'm logged in as Zach Allison here. And your firm would be able to have all your different users within a firm and share projects within it. And once I've created my project, which is a very simple, fill out a couple of fields of information, I can go in and start selecting products. So if I'm looking for a specific category, I can look for grab bars. If I want to search for series, if maybe I'm familiar with the product name, something like a Vormax, where it's one of the new tank type right height products from American Standard. So if you are looking for that unique back outlet tank type product that comes up every now and then, where it has to be barrier free and has to comply with a bunch of different functions because we're short on wall space, then you can search for it there. And if you're familiar with the model number off the top of your head, what was that grab bar? Was it 6806? We could search for a specific model number. These are for you, like those are for your experts, where you've got that favorite grab bar, if you've been doing it so long that you have a favorite grab bar. But I can search for a product category, which is my standard way of going through the product. And once I'm into the category, it's going to allow me to select a product and then all the other components that come with it. In addition, we do have the barrier-free toggle here. So I could toggle barrier-free. And because I've set this up as a project in Ontario, the rules-based system decides to show you appropriate products. I can go to mounting height and filter down even further. And I can look for, my Muro, but if I want something a little bit higher end, maybe I want the Decorum, which is the new kind of next wave of wall hung basins from American Standard. I can configure my product, which is where the ATS system is a little bit different than some of the other options in the market. You get the specific model that you select included in your output selections. And I can hit add to drawing. And you'll see here, it pops up all the other components you would need to make this complete assembly. So I could go through, select my faucet, select my drain, supply, the traps, and even the covering that we mentioned in the discussion. You can filter by manufacturer as well as you're trying to find different products. You can see you can filter by flow rate and finish as well. So if I want, that OBC compliant, or if I'm going for lead points, I could select my 0.35 or my 0.5 GPM. But you can also skip this if you're just looking for the singular component. Hit complete, add it in, and then put in whatever title you call it. So I know some people may have PO1 or fixture 1 or whatever you want to call it. You can pop that in and then hit download and take that into one of 10 different output formats. Now, like I said, I was expecting to be a little bit delayed, so I did pre-download a couple of these just to show, our brochure format, where you get nice clean images, some of the short details to help you make maybe a product decision or weigh product options. Combine cut sheet with all the nitty-gritty that you need to get a proper selection. And of course, that same detail can be found in a written spec in Word. We have 3 different versions of written specs, or a fixture schedule like showing here. And this fixture schedule comes with different types of schedules based on the types of products selected. So if you had gone through and selected all your different accessories, or in this case here, we're seeing the backrest in the accessories schedule. So that's a very quick intro to the ATS spec system. I appreciate you guys all giving me 2 additional minutes of the time that we didn't sign up for today. I will keep on. I see a couple of questions have come up. So we'll continue on if anyone wants to hear the Q&A and discussion. But if not, I really appreciate you spending the time with us today. I hope that you learned something. We will have additional resources coming out by email so that you can download a handy guide that will have all the images and a bit of a reference for you. I did see one final question coming up there. Do we have the Revit files? yes, we actually make the Revit files for most of the manufacturers out there. So with the click of a button, you could download the Revit for the entire project that you selected on the ATS spec tool. So if you want further information on that, feel free to reach out to Nat. Very simple, Natalia at atspec.com, or Zach, ZACH@atspec.com. Thank you once again for joining us. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
And I'll take a look at chat. So let's see if we have any other questions. So to provide a certificate for self-reporting, yes, we can assist you with certificates. Do we have the Revit models? Yes, we do have the Revit models for all of them. How do I get an account? Reach out to me via email and we will help get you set up. I believe I talked to someone from your company just earlier this week. We're setting up an intro. So Tony, I'll be sure to circle back to you on that. And I think that was just about it. Oh, an interesting point on inspector versus architect debate in court. So lots of great reading. And final question, can you send us the Revit models also? We do have our email spec team. So if you would like assistance in making the product selection, we have quite a number of people that like our outputs, but don't like going through the button clicking themselves. If you send a floor plan or a fixture list or even some general requirements, you'd even just call up or I guess set up a virtual meeting. Natalia, myself, Mo, Mel, whoever, we'll have a product discussion with you. We can discuss the project and the application, and we'll help you make decisions on the right product and then send you, a fixture schedule, a written spec, full Revit package, whatever you're looking for. So Emilio, if you need some Revit models, reach out to us and we'll help you out. So I think that just about covers it. Thank you once again for your time. I really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. It's a beautiful time of the year, summer solstice and all that. So enjoy the time and thanks again for joining us. Bye for now.
Thanks again.